Elementary music teacher friend, you love what you do, but you might feel unappreciated and, in fact, unseen some days. You may even feel like you're on a music teacher island and just want to connect with other music teachers who can relate to both your struggles and wins when it comes to teaching elementary music. I get you and understand completely the feelings you're having. That's why each and every week, the Elementary Music Teacher Podcast will provide you with solo and guest episodes that will help you realize you're not alone in your music teaching journey. Throughout each episode, my goal is for you to be able to walk away with actionable steps and ideas to help you feel like you're ready to take on the new week with whatever challenges may be thrown your way. Hi, I'm your host, Jessica Peresta, and I'm so glad you're here. Whether you're at home, in your car, in the shower, or wherever else you're listening, grab your cup of coffee or whatever other beverage is nearby and listen in to the Elementary Music Teacher Podcast. Welcome back. I am joined by Javel, and I can say he is a friend of mine because I actually did get to meet him in person. We'll talk about that in a minute. But Javel, I'm so excited to have you on the podcast, and we're going to talk all about your culture and heritage and Jamaican music. Especially you're putting another spin on it with a combination of the Orff approach. So I'm so excited. Before we dive into all the things, can you just go ahead and introduce yourself to the listeners?
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me, Jessica. So my name is Javel Perriel. I'm a music teacher here in lovely state of Florida. Been teaching for around 7 years now. And I'm just excited and enjoying every moment of it. Some exciting news recently, just became a dad. So, well, baby now. So it's an adjustment, so been off for 2 weeks now. So I'm going back on Monday, but, father, educator, and author. So just keep holding on the resume.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's so fun. I can tell this now because the world knows. But when I got to see you in Philly in August, I think you had just found out your wife was pregnant. And it was like, oh my gosh, so it's so exciting now the baby's here and healthy. And it's really, I know for me, it was such a transition calling myself mom. All of a sudden, you're like, I'm a mom. And you're like, I'm a dad. It's just like, interesting. Yeah.
Oh my God, there's a child here now. So
And we said too, they hand you this baby and all these nurses, helping, but also waking you up and everything, but helping out in the hospital. And then they're just watching you roll out and you're going, wait, they know we're leaving and they're okay with this. This is okay. I guess this is, can y'all come with us? Cause wait a minute. Don't put all this responsibility on me, but So, well, that's so exciting. So like I said, we're going to talk about Jamaican music, and I wanted to have this conversation because I got to sit in your session at the FABS conference in Philly, and it was so neat because not only did you talk about Jamaican music, but you talked about how to combine it with the Orff approach, which I was like, oh my gosh, I was just sitting there mind blown, and it was so exciting. So I wanted to come on and just kind of sit and chit chat with you about that. So first of all, talk to us a little bit about your Jamaican culture and the music and why you love it so much.
Well, yeah. So I'm Jamaican. I was born in Jamaica. Came to the United States when I was 15. So, still spent a good chunk of my life in Jamaica. And, every summer or whenever we can, we try to go back. But yeah, so right before I came to FABS, I was actually in Jamaica, and it just gave me more passion and courage to just do it. And because I was still so fresh off the island, I was like, man, this is something great. So I love my culture. I love sharing about it. And I think it's just one of those cultures that people just genuinely connect with so easily because, of all the people that are from there, like Bob Marley and the Marleys and, Usain Bolt and all the track stars. So it's one of those cultures that, everybody kind of want to connect with. So said, why not just connect it with what I love, which is music and Orff and teaching elementary students. So that's exactly what I did with the presentation at FAB. So it was truly exciting and I loved it.
Yeah. I got the chance to go to Jamaica. It was eons ago when we first got married, but I don't
know. It was just so cool because, you know, you hear about steel drums, but
Yeah.
the music, well, I saw steel drum players. And then also, like you said, Bob Marley, there was reggae music playing everywhere.
Yeah.
And then we would laugh because like on the radio, you know, in the States, every station is a different, I don't know, like genre. And I felt like we would like change the radio station in our hotel room and it would be like, oh my gosh, it's reggae. Oh, it's more great. But it's just so cool because I don't know. I love experiencing different cultures anyways, but the music is so unique and so fun. And you just even watching these people playing the instruments, whether it's steel drums or whatever, just get so into it and so passionate. But I bet that's just like what it's like all the time there, right?
Exactly. It's a joy. And, you know, like you said, people are always passionate and excited about it because it's one of those musical genres that you hear it and you just like, oh, wow, I can see myself on the beach right now, just, you know, just relaxing. So that's what I love about reggae music and just the whole essence of Jamaica.
So this was not in the questions I sent you, but I'm actually curious now. My mind is thinking, you're like, oh, what's she going to ask? No, but growing up there, I'm curious, what does a typical music class look like in an elementary setting? Just out of curiosity for my brain.
So it was very hands-on. It was more of like, you know, you just feeling it. Of course, you'll kind of get some of the basics like, you know, this is the note, all that. But a lot of it was more about feeling. And I think that just kind of stayed with me throughout my whole music career because I always tell my students, music starts with feeling, you know, like if you're feeling sad, that will go into the music. If you're feeling happy, that would also go there. So feelings is a big part of it. Yes, it's great to know like all the technical and theory stuff, but if you can't feel the music, then you can't connect with other people. So I think that's an important thing. Yeah.
It's funny because every state standards are different, but Arkansas, this is the one I've been using, but also the National Car Art Standards. But one of the strands I know a lot of music teachers get stuck on is, now, of course, I'm not going to remember what strand it is, but the one about experiencing music and discussing how you feel about it. And you know, the ones I'm talking about. And I know so many teachers get stuck on that probably because growing up in the States, like you don't really get it. You get taught more of the fundamentals and not so much about how does music make you feel. But I think it's great to kind of pull us out of that box to say, well, it's okay if I wasn't taught that way, but I think it's important, like you said, that kids, maybe they've never really thought about it. Like, oh, how does that song make me feel? I never really thought about that. Yeah, you know, so yeah, I think that's cool. Yeah. So let's talk about Orff and how your approach to combining the two, your love for Jamaican music and Orff, and then talk to us first of all a little bit about the presentation I saw at the conference, and then just start with that the conference presentation.
So the presentation was about, well, the title was Jammin' Orff, connecting Jamaican music with Orff. So you know, I use the Marleys because that's just a quick and easy connection to say, oh, all right, we're going to talk about reggae music. How can we put it with Orff? Because as long as I've been teaching Orff, I haven't really seen like genuine, authentic Jamaican music using Orff a lot. Yes, you'll hear like Belafonte's Deo, which is, I think that's one that's easy and it always goes around. But I think there's so many more reggae music that we can use in Orff. And I said, I think I'm onto something here. So, you know, I just started with that. It started as just me reading the story to my kid in class one day, because I have the book by Cedella Marley, One Love, which she just adapted the words from One Love, which is by Bob Marley, into a book. And I said, okay, I think I can do more with this story. So while reading the story, like my brain just started going, and I grabbed the ukulele and I just started playing some simple chords. And then I said, well, after the class was finished, I was like, oh my gosh, it's a good thing I chose to record that. So after listening to the recording, I said, why not just put this to the Orff instrument? So I slowly started to piece it all together and just more layers, which is the whole principle of Orff. So just adding more layers and went on from there. And I was like, you know what? I think I think this is something good. So every now and then, whenever I pull a book about Jamaica, I really try to integrate it and try to see how I can add Orff to it because, like I said, it's other than Deo or the Banana Boat song, I haven't really seen a lot of reggae music being used in Orff. So why not just start it? So that's exactly what I did. And the presentation was great. And again, like, I know like we were grown-ups in that room and a big part of it, I was like, listen, it's not about how perfect you're playing it. A big part was just feeling it and trying to pull from each other and making sure that, all right, you listen to this person for the cue, listen to that person, and then eventually would all piece together. So it wasn't so much about, all right, here we go. All right, everything needs to sound perfect and articulate and all this other fancy stuff. It was more about feeling and just going with the flow. And yeah, so I enjoyed it and I had fun. That was my first time presenting it to adults.
Yeah.
And I think it was also a learning process for me because I'm so used to teaching it to the kids. So it was good to take it beyond the classroom for a minute.
Yeah. Well, you did an amazing job and I learned a lot from you and I bought the book too. So, so walk us through when the One Love book or any book, like you said, you use that is from the Jamaican culture or any book for that matter. What steps do you go? How am I going to word this? You know what I mean? What steps do you take when you, like you said, layering and layering? So what do you do when you see a story and then you're like, okay, I want to add some instruments or movement. So how do you go about that?
Right. So I always start off with a rhythm pattern because, and I think it was the same thing for One Love. I started with the drums. I've heard the drums a lot of times in the song One Love. So I started with a drum pattern and that was kind of my leader at the moment. So I said, all right, this person is going to lead it off and then cue everything else. And then I added a bass line, which I think that was a part that you played. Added the bass line and then, added the melody and then try to put some harmony in between that. So that's kind of how I went with it. That's just easier for me because I'm a percussionist. So hearing the rhythms first and then adding the notes afterwards, that just works better for me. So that's how I went about creating that Orff arrangement for One Love.
That's so fun. So I know teachers listening are like, oh, that's so cool for him, but I'm overwhelmed by that. Or I don't know how I would do that. Or, anything like that. Or I'm not an arranger. Well,
yeah.
Like I like to push back on those comments sometimes, but, but what would you say to a teacher that's like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know how I would do that. What would you say to them?
Honestly, I'll just say, do what you can with what you have, because the first time I did it with the students, I didn't have any thought about like, oh, I'm going to make it into an arrangement. It was just something that came afterwards. But I started with the story and then I took out the ukulele. So even if you can't, put all the instruments in an arrangement, start with something simple. Maybe it's just some movement. Like there was a lot of movement and a lot of colorful words in the book. So want to use scarf so it doesn't have to be like this big arrangement thing, but just stick with what you got. And I think I'm going to put a quick plug in here for a second.
Yeah.
Franklin, because his thing with rhythm sticks, that gravitated towards me so quickly because something simple like a pair of sticks, it's just about rhythm and using what you have and going from there. It doesn't have to be like, like you're in a band and you have all these 30-piece instruments. So yeah, let's start simple. I think that's the main part of it.
Yeah. Start simple. I love that because you see sometimes a presenter or I know newer teachers even compare themselves to teachers that have been in it for a while. But like you said, what the finished product you see at a conference maybe is not the way you started. Maybe each year you do it differently, or you're like, oh, I kind of want to add this instead of this. And just like you said, have fun and start somewhere. And then your brain will start working and going, oh, what else could I do with this? So I love that advice. That's great.
Thank you.
So you already said you are an author And your book is so much fun. Music, I have this as well. Music is Bananas. So talk to us about this book and then why you were inspired to write it and all those things.
So, yes, the title of the book is Music is Bananas. And the biggest connection for me at the time when the idea of the book came about, again, this wasn't something that started right away. It was just an idea. I was teaching at a prior school that I was teaching at. The technology teacher and I were really good friends. And, he invited me to speak for the morning announcement one day. And he said, hey, I have this idea of a STEM-based circuit board that I think would be really cool because you can connect it to Bananas and it makes music. Immediately, I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, right.
So I was just blown away. And of course, it was a makey circuit board. And he said, all you have to do is just connect the cables and you can connect it to like Bananas or whatever thing that is conductive to create music. So I said, oh my gosh. So that very first interaction was kind of where the idea of Music is Bananas started, because I said, I didn't know you could just take bananas and turn them into instruments. So the idea of Music is Bananas stemmed from that, where I really wanted to connect STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, and music. And it's a fun little story about a bunch of bananas going on an adventure. And then they have a show at the end. It takes you through their connection moment and teaches you a lot along the way. So I was happy about this book because I actually got to partner with Makey for this one. And of course, it's published through F-Flat Books. So it's been very heartwarming to see it come to life after I don't know, 4 years, actually, just sowing into that one little seed. So yeah.
So music teachers can use this in their classroom. There is music that goes along with it as well, right?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's a simple one. Mary had a little lamb that I use. And of course, again, I tied in the banana boat where, banana one, and it's also linked to Jamaica. So that's another way that I tied in my culture to the book. So there are a few things that you can do with it. You can either choose to go more of the music side, or you can go more of the STEM side where you can break it down, tell them about science, or you can just read the story and just have a fun time in music class. So either or, you get to choose.
Yeah, I feel like maybe you have as well, but we're always told to work, my brain's not working. Curricularly, I'm gonna say culturally. Yeah. Well, that too, but cross-curricularly in our school. And sometimes you're like, okay, but how do I do that? But man, technology is all the rage right now too. So being asked to do something with STEM, and a lot of times as a music teacher, they're just going to assume you're just, oh, sure. So I think that's great. And this is just like, it's something no brainer where a teacher doesn't have to try to figure it out on their own. They have your book and then they have the makey activity that goes along with it. And it's already incorporating STEM and music and literacy all in one. And so I think that's amazing how you've connected the dots between all the different areas that I don't feel like there's very many books out there that do that.
Right. And that was a big drive behind the whole idea for the book, because yes, I could have just kept it as just a music book, but just as you said, doing that cross-curricular thing where it's like, it's not only music, it's technology, it's engineering, because, it's a circuit board. And with the lesson plan that I created for the book, it also goes a little bit more into that as well. So I really tried to, connect everything as much as I could. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think it's so cool for kids too, to be able to connect the dots. And a lot of times I think they view subjects in school as, this is music class next. This is my math period. But sometimes it's neat when they start, when you're working with other teachers and you're starting to teach similar concepts and standards or same activities, then they're seeing how, I can kind of see how this is all related, which I feel like it should be, not every day it's going to, but there's some lessons. That's awesome. So any other advice you have around using Orff in the classroom or with literacy, or even incorporating Jamaican culture or other cultural music into the classroom?
Definitely. I'll just say, like, any any chance that you get to do it. I think, especially whenever you're doing story time with kindergartners, that's a great opportunity to see like, oh, I can take this book, which is literacy, and make it into something musical. And I think that's kind of how like Orff programs kind of go along, because some of them start with a book and then you add Orff sounds to it and you go from there. So I just say, if something original can't come to your mind right away, start with a book. And I think that's what spurred the One Love Orff arrangement for me. I didn't just say, oh, I'm listening to Bob Marley's song, I should write a Orff arrangement.
Yeah.
It started with the book and it went from there. So I think that's one way to do it. And of course, if there's an arrangement that just comes to mind and you want to try, and like you said earlier, not everybody might be an arranger, totally fine. Just start somewhere and then build from there. And, ask for help, because yes, I always wanted to arrange ever since I've been in college, and that was a class that I took. So kind of have that building block. I'm not the best arranger. I don't label myself as one, but I have that building block, and I go from there. And of course, if something gets tricky, I have friends that I ask as well, so they can guide me too. So start with something simple, build from there.
Yeah. I just had another thought about something you said earlier. You said I'm a percussionist, and so I started with the rhythm. Well, I just thought about that. Well, someone else who's a pianist may start with the melody, or a vocalist may start with singing or speech piece, and so start with what you're naturally gifted at and comfortable with, and then build upon that. And it's going to look different across the board, which every music classroom looks different. So when you said that, it made me think about that, because I thought I'm a pianist, and I'm like, when you were saying I start with the rhythm, I'm like, I think I usually start with the melody and then figure out the rhythm that goes with it. It's funny because everybody's brains are different, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's so true, because whatever you're used to it or whatever you're studying, that's what you're going to use. So you hear the melody first. For me, I hear the rhythm first, and then I'm like, okay, that's that note. Okay, go from there. Yeah, that's cool.
Isn't that so funny? I love it. Yeah. It's so funny. I love how everybody's brains are differently, but that's what makes music fun and music education fun and exciting. So Javel, so you've already talked about your book. I would love for you to tell everybody where they can find it and also find out more about you.
Yeah. So you can connect with the book at fflatbooks.com. Just type in Music is Bananas. And great news that happened over this weekend, over this week rather, which I was excited about. It's now available at West Music. So, if you go on West Music, you can find it there. It's on Amazon. If you find me on Instagram, I have a website. You can find it on the website there. So wherever you can just literally search on Google, Music is Bananas. It will pop up. So any way you can support it. I appreciate the support in advance, and hopefully I get to meet you in person, and, I can sign or even give you some stickers and another free copy. Who knows?
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I've loved this conversation.
Of course. Thank you for having me. This was great.
Well, hey there. Thank you so much for listening into the Elementary Music Teacher Podcast. There is an exclusive Facebook group just for listeners of this podcast and any elementary music teacher called the Elementary Music Teacher Community Facebook Group. Come on over and join us there, where we have conversations around the podcast episodes and encourage each other each and every week. And also head to my website, thedomesticmusician.com. I have some free resources there that you can download to help you gain traction in your classroom today, as well as the blog and the membership site and all kinds of other goodies to help you keep going in your music teaching journey. I cannot wait to keep connecting with you and encouraging you and spurring you on in your journey of teaching elementary music. Hang in there, have an amazing week, and I will see you soon.